It's my feel-good breakfast show.
It is your feel-good breakfast show. And that concept, feel good, we don't just use it as a throwaway line, maybe a slogan. Oh, it sounds good. Let's make the people feel good. It's actually something that we're dedicated to, and we're willing to bring the right people in, warriors of positivity, to make sure you feel absolutely amazing. We've heard it, and we said it before, you know, stress is a positive thing. Anxiety is when we don't handle it well. Many say it's as simple as that, but is it really? We've got a motivational speaker here, Warrior Rick, who really takes on feelings, emotions, but more importantly, I feel like his voice is what you kind of carry yourself with. It's a vehicle of positivity. You kind of ride with Warrior Rick's voice, and then you start understanding life. This is what he's about. I hope that intro did him justice. Let's see his face.
Oh, my goodness.
Ladies and gentlemen, Warrior Rick!
Look at that.
I can just celebrate the fact that you're here, man, because I know it's going to be a good day after this.
It's a good day. It's a good day even before you started the day. You were already in that mindset.
Oh, yes.
Nice.
But you make me feel good, man.
But that's the idea. It's reciprocation.
I love it. How does the song go? The warrior can make my day.
That's it. But that is actually...
I wasn't
The only man that actually paid attention to the lyrics.
We're getting the intro made soon, by the way. Excuse me, intro coming soon. But it's so great to see you, and we always seem to be circling back on this, especially on a Monday.
Yeah.
But this whole concept of stress being something that's very positive.
Sure.
And, you know, yes, I agree, stress can be positive, but it's managing that and reacting to it that I see is a human fault and a flaw. We seem to not have the pamphlet on dealing with it, which is something that's always expected of certain people, you know, especially men in our society, always expected to deal with it in the best way possible. But, you know, we are clueless as well.
Correct.
So let's have a conversation about stress versus anxiety and the differences between those two concepts. What is it for you?
Well, for me, stress is what is the thing that gets us moving.
Okay.
If I didn't have stress before I came on the show this morning, I wouldn't prepare, I wouldn't plan. And I certainly wouldn't be able to persevere the interview, because I've got to actually prepare myself. Otherwise, you're arrogant. If you just say, I got this, it's no big deal, there's no preparation. So stress gives us that angst, that sort of jolt and that prodding that says, you know, no matter how good you are at something, no matter, even if it's something new to you, you want to make sure that you prepare and you plan. It's the anxiety that you want to avoid, but there are times that you can avoid anxiety. Sometimes it hits you in the face as well.
Yeah.
The most important thing is to know that it is an emotion. It's an emotion that, as human beings, we all have, and the best thing to do in terms of managing it is to recognize that it is there for our good.
Yeah.
All right, so we don't have to necessarily try to avoid it and run from it. This is something that we actually have to acknowledge, because this is something that often comes up. We think we're dealing with the situation, we think we've overcome, and yet we get pulled back into a similar situation, and we're like, are we back here again? It seems like the conversation happens a lot in our own mind. That narrative continually plays out. Firstly, is that a good thing? Is that supposed to be happening? And how do we then deal with that?
You talked about that thing that's in our head, right?
Yeah.
Well, what's in our head can only happen really from our experiences, right? Some of them, and I'm serious, some of them from before we were even born. It's spirit, right? But especially those things that we've experienced. You mentioned the fact that men have a unique type of stress, and in fact, we deal with stress very differently than females. I can speak on behalf of my wife in terms of how she deals with stress. She just gets it going on. Two Oceans last week ran her 656K, right?
Wow.
Through pain, through suffering, through training that was difficult. And me with my 21, it's easy, it's easier, if you will, and I enjoyed it. But it's because of her that I was able to manage minor bits of stress. So it's interesting how females, and perhaps it's the menstrual cycle, I don't know. Maybe it's the fact that they were built to give birth to children, but they know how to deal with the niggles. They know how to deal with the unexpected stress and anxiety. What we can learn from them is to say, calm down. Find the peace that surpasseth all understanding. Let the whirlwind go around you, but you need to be structured and solid in yourself. And don't try to just be strong and kind. And I think that's where we miss that duality, because we're always trying to be either or, which is very binary, as opposed to being both and. Why can't I be strong and kind as a man? That'll help me bring my stress levels down.
Yeah, I like that.
The most powerful thing that I learned in therapy was the fact that we've lived our lives thinking that we are the train, but we've always been the tunnel. Our experiences pass through us, and we get to choose what sticks around thereafter.
I love that.
And I love that type of control, Because we always felt like, hey, I got my baggage and my carriages of coal that's been building in my entire life, but I love this concept. And I think that there are so many people who are getting that right. But let's go to looking at those carriages on this train that we now know is no longer us.
That's right. That's right.
We are the tunnel. These are coming through us. How do we acknowledge those things coming through us?
Yeah.
Those things that are happening right then without getting into a state where we have that anxiety cycle, where that's the stimulus, it's never going to get right, and then we pack on more. So how do we acknowledge the pitfalls in our life
And not jump on the carriage.
and use that as an action plan rather than my life's going to hell?
I love this concept of a train. It's a journey.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And we need to enjoy the journey with
Yeah.
its challenges and with its pitfalls. But I think what we need to do is to bring onto the train those things that we want.
Yes.
And those things that we need might fall onto that train as well, even though we don't want it, right? So when you think about your journey, you've got to run your race. You've got to you got to crawl your race. You got to do whatever you can to get through that tunnel.
Yes.
So as you bring people onto your train, because that's now strategic, you decide who you want to bring on, that you can manage. You can say that, you know what, this person perhaps is not good for me. We talk about toxicity.
Yeah.
I don't want to be with that particular person. When I think about people who are good for me, I may not have invited them on the train, but they've taught me something because I gave them the opportunity
Yeah.
to speak so that I could listen. I do better when I restrain, when I'm not talking. I learn more through observing. So on that road of life, understand that it is your journey and that you welcome people onto your journey. You welcome challenges, those ones that you didn't even expect. And I think the tunnel then becomes the tunnel. What can we do? We're living in very tumultuous times. We're living in very challenging times. But in that challenge, if you've got the right warriors with you on that same mission, then you can win. And it's not about being like-minded. Sometimes it's about being like-hearted. And I think that's where we need to find compassion and empathy so that we don't have to go down into the pit with folks, but through service, on the edge of that well, we can throw down a rope or tell them how to get up from the insides of that well to get out of the muck.
The muck. Well, what do you do if you are actually, let's say, in that muck, per se? Is there a way to maybe work through that? Is this a conversation we could possibly have a little bit later? I want to take this to a practical realm. And of course, Warrior Rick is still here. He's standing by. He's out here to serve us. I think we've identified what this thing really is, this thing that's potentially holding us back from realizing our own potential. And don't worry, because you want to join in on the next conversation, because we're going to figure out how to bring that potential to life. But right now, let's head to the islands, take a little breather, and we'll be back in a bit. Yeah.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Welcome back to your Feel Good Breakfast Show. And once again, Monday, Feel Good. We're doing that. We're continuing our conversation with motivational speaker Warrior Rick, who is discussing something so important around anxiety and stress. Those two words are very different, but somehow live in the same universe. How is that even possible? And I think it's so important for us to tap in over here. I brought you in, Graham, because I wanted
A practical example.
practical example of
We
somebody
need you,
who-
brother. We need you.
Okay, so I want to be honest. Let's open the cards up here. You are going through a stressful time at the moment. You know, your family is in another country, and you are here doing what you love, of course, TV.
Yeah.
Without the people to return home to.
Well,
who you
my,
love.
my well.
Yeah.
You talk about that thing that refills your cup or gives me context in the world. I didn't realize to what extent. So why this is such a pressure point.
Yes.
This poor man kind of became like the studio crew, where I had a complete mental breakdown being separated from my family during Omicron, 4.5 months. 2 weeks in, I lost my mind and then had to ride that wave throughout. And I mean, there were moments on the show where I was just bawling my eyes out. It was crazy.
Yeah.
And all of us have felt a little bit of that.
Oh, yeah.
I often say the bravest thing that I've done in my life through the many times is that just getting out of bed.
That's right. That's right.
It's that first step. So when you're locked in, when you're in this place where you kind of feel like you don't have the tools and you've lost control completely, what is the first switch you flick? Because when someone tells you this is what you need to do to save your life, that makes it worse.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think that you worked on it. You had to work on it, and you had a support
I
group,
had this
which was
around
beautiful. And
me.
there's some who don't even have that support group. Or you have people saying, "Suck it up, Buttercup."
Yeah.
Would that have helped you?
Well, I was telling myself, put your big boy pants on, boy, and let's
Yeah.
get the job done.
And that's fine. It's fine. But how that translates in terms of your well-being. Too many people are pursuing happiness instead of pursuing peace, which you mentioned in the last segment. So when you're going through a challenge, you've got to get the little stuff done. You said it. Getting out of bed, making your bed, opening the blinds. We've got folks not getting out of bed, keeping the blinds closed, missing vitamin D, which we learned through COVID was a positive, not a negative. Get outside, get fresh air, get oxygen. We often criticize smokers, right?
Yeah.
We say, don't smoke, but where do they get it right? Taking a break.
A breather, yeah.
They know to get outside, get fresh air, and to take a break from the busyness of your day, whether it's a relationship issue, finance issue, which is essentially those two things.
Complexity.
The complexity of it.
I fed off you during that phase because the turning point for me was thinking that my body was broken and I couldn't move. But that first movement, I wasn't running up a mountain with weights and doing what I used to do. 2 kilometers.
I love it.
The next day, 3 kilometers. Boom.
100%.
Absolute shift. And I didn't have to gain any control in any other area other than just pushing for another 1,000 steps, dude.
It's the small steps. I call it graduation. You don't have to wait for a matric. You don't have to wait for marriage. You don't even have to wait for a divorce.
Yeah.
The graduation happens today. It just gradually, one step at a time. Slip back and try to get another step in. And stop trying to be so efficient. I'm not saying you, I'm saying in general. And to our viewers, let's stop trying to be so efficient. We're trying to hit 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
How about let's do 3 out of 5 and let's be effective with the 3.
Yeah.
And that's where we're missing. We're missing the effectiveness of our lives. It's about being proactive. So even though today you might not have stress or anxiety, you should be doing the things that are actually going to help fortify you in the future. What is it? Nutrition, movement, not even exercise.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes we say exercise, people think gotta go to gym. No, you need to move. You need to move. You need to make sure you get enough sleep and rest. We're learning more and more from a neuroscientist.
Just today we've learned.
Today.
And it's beautiful to get enough rest, not 6 hours, not 7, 8 hours. Let's go ahead and get 8 hours plus rest. And that final thing, prayer and meditation. That's you being with yourself, having those thoughts come in and learning how to breathe to get them out. And they come back in, just keep breathing in and out.
Can I address something that often we say, which is we don't have time?
Yeah.
And I listened to a podcast the other day, and they said those things that you just mentioned now, they don't take time, they add time.
I love that.
I love that. So you spend 30 minutes of meditation, like, where am I getting 30 minutes from? I'm sorry, 30 minutes of meditation is going to give you 30 minutes.
Carl, how about 1 minute? How about being mindful? What is mindful? Being aware of what you're doing while you're doing it. Remember, this is not a performance. Life is not a spectator sport. So we are in it and we're doing this for real. Graham has given us a real life example. That's vulnerability. But how many lives is he changing by sharing his story? So we have got to be able to be strong enough and to be that person of service. When we give, we receive. So if you want to be well, you want to be mentally well, serve other people. In Ubuntu, keep giving. And what you'll find is you will reap the benefits.
Oh, completely. And it's so crazy that you say that because my biggest issue through this journey has been how do I shield my kids? How do I put them in a different reality so the insanity that's going on in our world, and there were some crazy things have gone on in my world in the last 6 months alone. And instead of separating us by just leaning on my boy, especially to get advice, 6 years old, to get advice in those critical moments, by explaining what was going on so I could fully understand it, to take myself out of that reactionary space so they're not subject to the toxic manifestation of a bad situation, but a part of the solution. The difference in parenting for us in that moment. So don't hide away from the ugly moments. You mentioned that earlier. The growth is there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how do we turn this, how do we reframe it so that we can, that person who's in it right now, can see this as the first step towards possibly the solution for their life?
100%. It's really about taking stock of your life and looking at the things around you that have been positive. Look at the things that have actually made a difference in your life. People are dealing with some very difficult circumstances, finances, relationships, typically, again, those two. My goodness.
More wars now than ever.
And this is the time where you can actually shine, because going through that fire, going through those challenges will make you better. But you've got to take stock of those things that are working in your life. We talked about it, Carl, in terms of being on that train. You've got to have to pull off at the next station, give it a break, retract, retreat, revitalize, so that you can catapult yourself through that tunnel to get through. But you're gonna have to let go of some things. Otherwise, you're carrying that kind of baggage that is only gonna let you down. And guess what? Unfortunately, best friends let you down. Husbands let you down. Wives let you down. So you've got to really take stock of your life and understand why you're here. You have got a purpose. You have been built, I call it shop. This is your DNA. That's yours, not mine, that's yours. Your gift is here, your talent is here. Be that spark for somebody else, and when you give it, then you will receive. You know Marianne Williamson's poem. It's so beautiful. Nelson Mandela made it famous, that it is not the dark that we are afraid of, it's the light. Why are we so afraid to go into the light?
Yeah.
We're afraid that we'll be exposed. We're afraid that people will say, oh, Carl's not good enough, and oh, who does Graham think he is?
Forces us to hold up a mirror, yeah.
And when we do that, what we're doing is we're giving permission, as she says in her poem, we're giving permission to other folks to shine. And I love that because it is in service that we actually become better human beings. We learn more about ourselves, we learn more about the world, and guess what? As the world turns, we can actually let our light shine so that the world can follow us instead of the other way around.
Completely.
Woo! Thank you for your service, by the way. Thank you
Blessings.
for giving so much of yourself on the
Blessings.
show.
Yeah,
In
we
fact,
give you permission to shine.
I'm shining.
Yes.
I
I'm
give it-
shining.
and you're going to shine
Thank
now,
you.
trust me. But the shine might be beads of sweat because you and Ryle are about to do something.
Oh,
It's called glisten. It's not shine, it's
Yes.
glisten, okay?
Let's do that now. What do you have, Ryle?